Hello again, Steve here. Just thought of an idea to chat about for a little bit about an hour ago, and I just pulled over the side of the road here, just driving somewhere, and as it turns out, it's a pouring rain day here in this temperate rainforest, and it's actually daylight, if you can believe it right now, but it looks pretty dark outside for the most part. Well, the cloud cover is probably about a mile thick, that's why. What I wanted to talk about was coffee chat. Coffee chat. Why coffee chat? What's the origin of it? What's it all about? Yeah, I just wanted to talk about it in general. I was just thinking earlier, what do I want to talk about today? Why not coffee chat? Let's go with it. So the history of coffee chat goes back a number of years, probably to about 2007. When I was in Vancouver, and I had this idea. I've been reading a book. I forget if it was a book by Wallace Wattles. I think I shortly after I'd read the book The Secret, got into New Thought, that sort of thing. I think it might have been Wallace Wattles. I don't remember for sure, but anyways, the concept of the mastermind came up. And the mastermind, of course, is where a group of people get together, generally speaking, working on a common goal or a common project. But not necessarily. It could be just in order to support one another. And about that time, a good friend of mine who I'd worked with for a while, he somehow was diagnosed with this very serious illness of some sort of flesh-eating disease or something. And his life was quite actually threatened by this. And he didn't know if he'd make it through. His, medical staff didn't think he'd make it through. But he did, though. He was always the kind of guy with a positive frame of mind and this sort of thing, and he made it through. And it was, he can't say for sure it was anything he did that made it through. It might have been just, good fortune and whatever medicines he took and what have you. But nevertheless, he made it through, and because of that, he gained a greater appreciation for the value of life and the preciousness of life. And I remember talking to him about how, it'd be great. Everybody's got a story, a great inspirational story. If nothing else, just inspirational. They can share about how something happened to them that changed their life in a positive way. It was maybe seen as a challenge and a negativity or whatever at the time, but it changed their life because they pulled through it. And also I was thinking, everybody has challenges in their life, and everybody else has had similar kind of challenges and came through it in some way, or may have. And therefore, they've got little stories and little tidbits as to what works, what's helpful, So I put together this idea. I posed this idea of building some kind of a group when I was out there. And I told most of my friends. Most of them thought I was just, they thought I was nuts to begin with, but they even thought more. So basically they thought it was a stupid idea, that it was too deep, that for most people they thought. However, there was a few who did say yes, and a good friend of mine who was into, I had known her for quite a while anyway. She was into all kinds of New Age stuff, like anything New Age, crystals, channeling, the whole works. She was into a lot of that stuff, and she was gung-ho on it. I mean, that was a great idea. Anything to do with getting together with people wanting to talk about something deep, it was wonderful. So she volunteered her house to host the first event, and there was her, there was myself, and there was one guy, a Freemason guy, who was also a Rosicrucian guy, so this was a real good mix, right? And then there was her son showed up at the end. So there was actually 4 of us at the first event. It wasn't called Coffee Chat, it wasn't called anything. And then, of course, we moved to Saskatoon, towards the prairies from Vancouver. And because of everything got put on hold because we were building on the acreage and the farm and everything like that. It got put off for about a year, but it wouldn't go away. So I didn't know anybody there. So not only did I still want to do this, I thought it was a great idea to meet people. And also there was a concept on the prairies, and it still goes on today, called Coffee Row, which is where the farmers, you go to any small town on the prairies, especially on a Saturday morning, you'll see a lineup of pickup trucks outside the local restaurant or cafe. And all the old farmers are in there with their wives. The wives sit at one table, the guys sit at the other, and they gossip and talk shop, basically. It's the old form of the internet, live and well. on the prairies. My neighbor invited me to a couple of these things, and I couldn't relate for the most part, because most of the gossip was about people I didn't know about, and they were talking about crops and, inputs and fertilizer and the price of diesel fuel for the tractors and the horsepower of the tractors, all this sort of thing. I didn't really relate to it, not coming from there. But I liked the idea because I could see the sense of community that they had through it. So about a year later, and it was the fall actually, I ran some notices on a free advertisement website called Kijiji that was quite popular in the area, and for seeing if anybody was interested in this sort of thing. It was kind of like almost a personal ad. Hey, do you want to go for coffee? Married middle-aged white man wants to go for coffee. Not quite like that, but it was sort of like that. And I did get some contacts, and but not much interest. But there was one lady who contacted me who wanted to do something similar. So we got together and we did this. Actually, she was involved with another group at the time, which was falling apart, and that's why she wanted to regroup and sort of create something that out of the ashes of that group. And we joined forces. We started this thing called the Saskatoon Empowering You Group. Actually, she started it, and I helped her out a little bit. But within about several months, we parted company, and she basically told me, it's probably better if you go your own way, because I don't know why, really, but she didn't like the way I was wanting to take it, I guess. So then I just started on my own, and the first event was about 5 or 6 people said they were coming, and I had it all set up. I got there early. It was in the corner booth of a restaurant, and I'm waiting there at 7 o'clock in the evening. It's supposed to start at 7. It's about 5 after. There's nobody there. I go, well, this ain't gonna go anywhere, is it? And about 7 after, was a lady walked in, a middle-aged lady holding a notebook ready to take notes for all this valuable information she was going to hear. And she came up to me and she says, isn't there a group meeting here? And I said, yeah, I think you and I are it. And she did, to her credit, she did sit nervously off in the corner of the booth on the opposite corner, and we did a little bit of small talk, and then she said, actually I got another appointment or something. The way she went, that was it. And I would have quit at that moment, but my wife did encourage me to continue. So I continued, and it grew little by little. It grew. It probably in the first 3 months, there was a lady who had been coming there fairly regularly, and she referred to it at one point her coffee clutch, like a clutch of hens, I guess. As it turns out, though, somehow I don't even know for sure how the coffee chat came about. It was just organically arrived. Why coffee, though? I mean, I don't even drink coffee. Well, it's just because it's one of those social drugs, isn't it? It's an opportunity a lot of times when people have coffee, it can be a social event where you chat. And that's where I wanted to really bring this discussion a little bit today, which is like the value of getting together and having meaningful conversations. Because the more meaningful they can be, the more intimate they are. In a more general sense. What I mean by intimacy in a more general sense, more connected. You see, because there's lots of forms of communication. There's very superficial communication, which is often in a job setting. And we see the value in that because it's directed for a specific purpose. We're building a house. We're going to be talking about the 2x4s and the nails and the hammers. We're not talking about philosophy or meaning of life or anything like that. We're talking about things that are going to get this house, this wall put up at this moment, right? So there's that. But there's also the forms of communication, or the media of communication. There's things like email. There's things like, in the days gone by, there was snail mail. There's the telephone, and then even a higher degree of that, there's Skype. But these take out an element of the connection between us. But there's something about being able to sit down in a time of leisure and have a discussion. That way we don't have to talk shop anymore. So we allow ourselves to talk about ourselves and our relationships, our interpersonal, our interhuman relationships, and what it is that we value. It becomes a deeper conversation. See, it's no longer just shop talk, and it's no longer other forms of media getting in the way. We're talking directly. And there's something about sharing of an activity during that communication that seems to bring it to a higher level. That's why I seem to believe, I seem to get the sense, just from experience, that sharing a meal with somebody, or sharing a coffee or a tea, some sort of activity which is almost like a sustenance of life activity while talking, that helps us to lower our barriers and open up more. This is probably why, alcohol has been so successful in doing that. Although most of it is the alcohol that that sort of fogs our brain a little bit, so we get past the inhibitions. But there's also the setting in which it takes. It's after we let our guard down. We've taken our tools off. We've put our books down. We're turned off the TV. We've done all that. And we're just having a conversation now. And it is in this conversation that we can make a connection. Gone are the fabricated hierarchies, the structures of boss, manager, employee, even woman and man disappears at that point. Because now we're talking. We're having a communication. Now, I know that people have brought it up before, and it'll probably come up again, that coffee, to some people is not a healthy drink. And, all that aside, I'm not going to really go there because I'm not a qualified enough dietitian to make comments on that. Well, I have my opinions, and I don't drink coffee. It's just the name. That's all. It's like the word a cafe, there's a cafe over there. Well, when we're talking about the cafe, we're not talking about coffee necessarily. They'll probably serve coffee inside of it. It's actually the building, where you might actually buy a croissant or something in the cafe. You might not actually have coffee. It's the ambiance of being able to have a good conversation. Overall, then, what is the value in terms of improving the quality of our life experience? Well, coffee chat is just one. The coffee chat experience is just one expression of humanity, and it's a name attached to it. It's not any sort of a structure or organization or corporation or anything like that. It's just something that some people came up with and decided, I guess, because they showed up for a while, that it was something valuable to do, and hopefully will continue. But I think the value of it is that we have the opportunity to strip away our facades of personality, like the work roles. I am a this and that. We just show up as men and women, brothers and sisters of humanity, and have a great chat. I know sometimes it can be challenging because there can be a group of people and not everybody can chat, but it's an opportunity to meet people as well, because there's something about, and I'm going to talk about this later, about how communication can go in very, very, very deep degrees. I'll probably cover that a little bit tomorrow and talk about a little bit of that tomorrow. And when we can have a conversation with somebody without any preconceived notions of what they are in terms of person, like that guy over there is a banker, or that guy over there is a mechanic, or that lady over there is a nurse, without any of those preconceived notions. We're just meeting people for who they are as men and women and brothers and sisters in humanity. And we're open to being able to share and open to listening to what other people have to say. From my experience, we can learn. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any better school in the world than observing people and listening to people and attempting to improve our communication, both in what we say and in what we hear other people saying. This overall is and of course, if it results in some sort of friendship relationships, work relationships, and in some cases, maybe even partnering relationships of some kind. Through that, what in life is more valuable? I mean, life itself is so valuable, of course. But the experience of life, if we can have interconnected and interrelated experiences within our lives, wow, it takes on, life does, a different shine. And I say it's a shine of better quality of life. That is my hope for what Coffee Chat can do. That is my reason for doing it. You know, people have asked me before, you know, what's your slant on this, man? Like, what are you selling me or whatever? And I tell people over and over again that I do Coffee Chat for me. You know, I do this for me because this is such a joy. I look forward to, as limited as this is, because this is one of these forms of media like Skype or something like that. I'm not even talking to a real human being in the moment. I'm just kind of imagining it as I speak to this video. But still in all, I look forward to this every day because I get to be able to have a meaningful conversation, something deep. And it's like if we want to build something strong, we have to build it deep. And we put a foundation for our house in. We put it down deep. You want to put a post that's going to stand up. You got to put it down deep. If we're going to have relationships with people, they got to be relationships of depth. Otherwise, they're just relationships of the veneer, which can be convenient, and of course we're going to have many relationships like this because our whole work environment, that's basically what it is. It's, for the most part, unless we get to know somebody outside of the work environment or on coffee breaks and things like that, which are a little bit deeper, for the most part it's just a veneer. It's a very thin layer of life to do with whatever it is we're doing. You know, if we're putting up a wall on a house, well, the communication with the crew is about putting up the wall. It's not, and that to me is not a deep conversation. It's a very practical conversation, but it's not a deep conversation, and it's not a conversation in which we get to know people necessarily all that well. And I think there's a reason why, after all of that is done, we want to then go for a beer, because we want to enjoy the humor, the conversation, the input, all at the time when we remove our facade of our professions and our supposed presentations, our momentary presentations. We want to have a connection with the real human being. And that's why, like I say, we go for beer, we go for coffee, we interact with others. I think so. Anyway, what do you think? Anyways, Coffee Chat, the value of it, well, improving the quality of our life experience. If you can do that, come on out and join us. We will hopefully be having many more of these. Talk to you soon. I'll sign off for now. My name is Steve. It's great chatting again. Bye-bye for now.